Remember Ammon Bundy? Ammon Bundy was one of the guys who took over that federal building some years ago and, like, wouldn't leave. Remember him? He's back in the news. Let me see if I can find the video. Trying to find the best version of the video. Probably this one. He got arrested. Again. Nick says, and now for the lightning bolt of the legal world. And Thrash Mio says, good and bad news. Friend got catcalled. Affirmation and rudeness. Yeah, that's always complicated. At least in terms of, trans people. So, here he is getting arrested at the courthouse. The context for this is he and his group of followers, did some sort of protest somewhere. I don't know the specifics. But anyway, he I think was summoned to court for a trespassing charge or something like that. He showed up to the court. He showed up to the court and refused to wear a mask. I don't remember which state this is in, but the Supreme Court of that state has issued a mandate that within court buildings, within state courthouses, masks are mandated, except for specific circumstances, like if you're testifying, you can take your mask off on the bench or wherever, whatever they call the place where the person talking sits next to the judge. I think at the like plaintiff and defendant tables, you can maybe take them off. I don't know the specifics, but anyway, there's a mask mandate for the courthouse. Ammon refuses to wear a mask. They won't let him into the courthouse, of course, because it's a mandate. And because of this, he gets a failure to appear to his court date charge, and they issue a bench warrant and arrest him here right on the spot. So let's take a look at this. Lost Sauce, thank you for gifting 5 subs to the community. Much appreciated.
Is Aaron close by?
Yeah, Aaron's right there. You want me to get him?
Yeah, get him over here. There's Aaron right here.
Stone Corbell, thanks for subscribing 9-month streak. That's a stream baby. Rachel. This stream baby's name is Rachel.
Yeah, That's all.
They closed the lobby. They're sending the clerks home.
Make sure that you're here so you can.
Oh, here's the guy.
Oh, so I'm here. Oh, they say I'm not here now?
Where's John?
Mr. Bundy?
He's also wearing a cowboy hat, because of course he is. Of course I say that wearing a silly hat, but I don't wear this hat outside, I wear it for streams. In the same way Jake doesn't wear a corn suit in his day-to-day life, you know? There's different rules on the internet.
Yeah. It's now signed by the judge.
Yeah.
You'd like to step inside if you would, sir?
I'm not going to assist you in your oppression.
What's that?
I'm not going to assist you in your oppression.
Okay. Mr. Schmidt, Juan Schmidt?
Can you get a case?
Is that
Aaron?
Juan Schmidt?
Yeah, this is me.
We have a warrant for your arrest as well. Would you like
What
to
was the reason?
stay to appear?
I'm here.
I understand that.
We've been here.
You wouldn't let me.
Hey, you guys are here. You guys don't know.
So again, getting charged with failure to appear in court because he would refuse to wear a mask and they won't let him in without a mask because them's the rules. Melted Snowcaps, thanks for subscribing at Tier 1 for 3 months in advance. Nice, I appreciate that.
Stand there here.
We're actually a little ahead of the curve in terms of gift subs and subs for the month. We're at 173. That's a little over 10 a day on average. That's pretty good. We're probably going to make our sub goal this month.
They want him to step in to arrest him, but they won't let him step in to go to jury.
We can't hear you. I'm here. Take your mask off.
We're not going to argue. You have a warrant, $10,000 warrant.
You're breaking God's law.
You're going to come in.
Why can't you do it out here?
Hold on, so you're going to ask them to come in without a mask on to arrest them?
Zorn's
exactly what they said.
No.
That the court shall be freely open to the public.
That's right.
You want to know the orders that the commissioners put on the judge?
Oh, this is gonna get really loud a little bit later when he gets arrested, by the way. The crowd freaks out because they're like weird culty followers of his. So, warning for that. Gonna be some people screaming.
In writing.
Court shall be open to the public.
That's an unlawful arrest.
You're violating that law.
If you're gonna arrest him out here. Don't take him in.
Every 5 subs over the sub goal should be a day without Danzy. That's not bad. I kind of like that.
Go that way. So that's
Arrest him out here.
He's here. He's here. How can you say he's not here?
Who dis crazy man? Ammon Bundy is a... I'll just pull up his Wikipedia. It'll be easier. Ammon Edward Bundy is an American anti-government militant and activist. A car fleet manager by profession, Bundy gained widespread attention by leading the 2016 occupation of Malheur National Wildlife Refuge. He is the son of rancher Cliven Bundy, who was the central figure in the 2014 Bundy standoff regarding unpaid grazing fees on federal-owned public land. That was about... the government owns a lot of land, you know, and a lot of it's empty just because they're not doing anything with it currently. So they were charging ranchers, like Ammon and his family, a fee, and then they could bring their cattle, or livestock that eat grass onto the property, and they could have them graze, on the property for like a fee, a presumably reasonable fee because they're not really doing anything with the land anyway. And Ammon and his family were like, no, we don't want to pay the fee, even though it's not their property. They felt entitled to it. So they took over, like, a national park, like federal property building, and occupied it with guns and stuff. One of the people there got shot by the police, and I think they died. They were basically using women and children as human shields. It was really disgusting. So, yeah, that's this guy. And he got off with a slap on the wrist. Like, he's out, you know? So this is him in another incident.
When you're talking to him, we've been here.
I am not the judge. I did not sign the warrant.
But don't matter. You took an oath just like they did.
The judge.
The commissioner was even here saying that it was
To
illegal.
stand against the judge. You took an oath to stand against the judge.
He's basically a right-wing fundamentalist terrorist type.
What about the Constitution? That's why you took the oath.
That's why you took the oath.
I am part of 3 branches of government. I am not in the judicial branch.
So stand up for the...
You're the
people. Exactly.
You're in the executive branch. To check and balance the judicial.
That's exactly
That's
right.
exactly right. That's why you take an oath. You stand against a judge. You know that is true. This is unlawful. I've come to appear. Aaron has
He's
come to
here.
appear.
He's
I am
here.
The guy they're talking to currently, I think is, he works for the sheriff's department. He's the under-sheriff, which I'm not sure the actual definition of. Oh, it's just another word for a deputy sheriff. So, this guy, deputy sheriff that they're talking to right now. Sheriffs are sort of the arm of the court, so to speak. If the court needs someone arrested or if the court needs some action taken like this, sheriffs are the ones typically doing it. Nam Serena, thank you for subscribing. RTK142 says, can we, like, find a way to distinguish those white people from the rest of us who aren't horrible? I mean, Ammon is a fucking terrorist, so... There's your distinction.
We're just asking you to do the right thing. You can be arrested for
We've been here since... When are you guys going to have to stand up? You guys have to stand up and say, we're not going to arrest him. This is ridiculous.
No, you won't. Behind you. No, you won't. I'm trying to move.
Here comes the screaming because they're arresting him. Thrash Mio says, I certainly don't want the surname Bundy. Yeah. Someone call the police! He's being arrested by the police. Mark Zuckerberg 240, thank you for subscribing for 6 months. 6-month streak.
Listen, you're not above the law.
America's going great, by the way.
Get back.
Retreat!
They arrest multiple of these people. I don't know how many, but I know on top of Ammon, at least one other person I know got arrested in this situation too for resisting the cops and trying to fight them. I don't know about the other people though.
Retreat!
Bardlock Moses says if this was a Black Lives Matter protest, there would be blood right now. Yep.
Awake and be men! Be men! Don't be bullies! Be bullies!
Your boss said retreat! Thank you, sir. I'm only doing what my boss tells me.
I'll do anything I'm told. I'll kill a man. I'll stone down a pregnant woman. I don't care.
You'd think our throat would hurt at this point, right?
The sheriff came out saying that there was a warrant for Ammon Bundy's arrest for failure to appear, and of course he was right here all morning long. I've been right with him all morning long.
Loud noises!
But they would not let him in the courthouse.
It basically just goes on like this. There are some different angles. Here's a different angle. Same deal.
This is in Boise, Idaho at the Ada County Courthouse.
Oh no, Jake used to live in Boise.
Presence, basically, there was an here since 8 o'clock to wear a mask inside these. Anyways, court judge issued a warrant for their arrest.
These are all from his personal YouTube channel, by the way. He has more subscribers than me, which I'm not a fan of. So go subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. Hannah Reloaded. Let's see what he has to say about this, okay? Because I'm sure he has some sort of dumb justification. I feel like if you're in a car, like if you want to wear a cowboy hat, that's fine. Jokes aside, like people's personal style, that's completely their own choice. If you want to wear a cowboy hat, I do not care. But I feel like you take off a cowboy hat when you get in the car. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, I'm in the car. Boop. Put it on the seat next to you or whatever. I just feel like driving in a cowboy hat feels uncomfortable. In my defense, I'm not a cult leader. Just an aspiring one. RTK142 says, I'll stomp down a pregnant woman, I don't care, end quote. America, ladies and gentlemen, and NBs of distinction. I hate this country sometimes. Only sometimes. I remember those days.
Spending 30 hours or so in the Ada County Jail. pretty miserable experience, but one that I'm becoming familiar with. Yeah, and
Bardlock Moses says a lot of cowboys were freed slaves looking for work. I don't know anything about it. It's interesting, though.
you know, maybe I instigated it. Maybe it was my fault, right? I'm sure that's what a lot of people might be thinking. You
It was your fault. You should have put on a stupid fucking mask, you man-child.
don't go to jail without being your fault. So let me tell you the story. I'll tell you a little bit. So back in August, I went to the Capitol building. They were having a special session. Governor Little was trying to pass an immunity bill that would protect him legally from any COVID decision that he and his staff has made. So People's Rights and other organizations were wanting to show that the people weren't happy with that. And so I got a message through the People's Rights Network, showed up at the Capitol building on the 24th, and they tried to lock the doors to the House gallery. And of course, the people weren't very happy with that. Ultimately, pushed their way in. I was there, certainly wasn't leading the effort, but I was there. But of course, just because of the situation, they wanted to say that I was the one leading it. And
I find that pretty hard to believe, considering you showed up to court with a posse of people willing to fight the police after you got arrested lawfully. I would imagine at whatever protest you were at, and he has the right to protest peacefully whether I like the guy or not. If he wants to show up somewhere and genuinely just stand there and protest, fine. I think he's a dick, but he's allowed to do that. But, like, if it got violent, I find it pretty hard to believe that you had no part in that, and your people who follow you around like a weird posse. I find it incredibly hard to believe that you were not a part of that in some way.
I wasn't even at the very beginning of it. I wasn't even there in the front or anything.
As we all know, in order to lead a crowd of people, you need to geographically be in the front of them. Otherwise, it doesn't count. Loopholes.
And but it was the right thing also, because our legislatures don't have a right to lock the Capitol buildings during the legislative session. In fact,
I mean, we're in a public health crisis, so if they're locking down government buildings and only allowing people in currently who are need to be in there because of COVID, understandable.
The Idaho Code makes it very clear that when the legislative session is going on, the Capitol building has to be open. So anyway, things worked out that way. Okay, Speaker of the House came out and ended up, consenting to let everybody in, and ended up being a pretty good day. I had committee hearing on the bill, and people were able to testify. And I was actually only going to be there about about an hour. I was only going to be there at the Capitol building, maybe an hour and a half. So I had another meeting. I was going to leave, but ended up staying longer because I was a little concerned about the situation. And I am getting to, my arrest here. It happened yesterday, and pretty crazy stuff.
Nick says, also, you remember the Capitol incident? They don't want idiots like that getting mad and trying to kill them. Mr. Sir Knight Kingyo also says, actually, as someone who used to hang around cowboys, can confirm cowboys have a courtesy rule, so they almost always take their hat and place it on the seat next to them when driving. Usually passengers are in the back seat unless there are too many, in which case someone holds the hat so it doesn't bleach in the sun. Those hats are expensive. Good to know.
Anyway, so I go home that night after being at the Capitol building, and the next morning had a completely different plan. I was going to do several different things, but I felt that I was to go to the Capitol building again, and felt like the force there was, building, and I felt like I needed to go. So I get up.
What hat am I wearing? It's some hat someone sent me in a P.O. box thing. If you ever want to send me hats, Go ahead, by the way. I enjoy hats. Purple's my favorite color. The P.O. Box command is just like exclamation point P.O. Box. But, I don't know. This is just one someone sent me. It's a little too small, but it's a one-size hat, so there's no other option.
I was going to go to the Capitol building, and I went, but I didn't think much of it. And we go into the committee. Well, first of all, when I was about 35, 40 minutes.
Do I already have a purple Kangol? What's a Kangol? Briar Rose 1984. Thanks for subscribing with a 1-month streak.
Early for the hearing at the Capitol building. I actually thought it was a half an hour.
What size hat do I wear? That's a good question. I actually, God, I hope there's a tag in this. This is 61 centimeters. I could probably do to be even a little bit bigger than that, but this hat is 61 centimeters. And I actually measured my head for this, but it's a little tight, but it's around about there.
Earlier than it was, and when I walked down the Lincoln, or the hallway to the Lincoln Auditorium, and then
I don't know what 61 centimeters means in actual hat size, but that's what it is.
Capitol basement, that's where the hearing was. It was probably 20 to 25 ISP officers, Idaho State Police officers, and they were congregating and kind of pointing, and it looked to me as if they were making some type of plan. And when they saw me, I caught them off guard, and they all just kind of dissipated. They all just kind of went their different ways, literally just scattered. And I went in and sat down. Took several, minutes before the meeting started. And it was just set up exact same way it was the day before. You have the media on one side in the press box, and you have, the chairman and the committee, and you have the people, and it was pretty much set up the same way. And right as the meeting started, the sergeant at arms goes down to the side of the room and onto the stage, if you will, and
this has basically nothing to do with his arrest yesterday.
Whispers something in the ear of the committee chairman, which his name was Greg Cheney. And all of a sudden, the committee chairman stops the meeting, and he points to these two people that were sitting in the press box and says, you and you can't sit there. You haven't got credentials. And they were independent media. They were working for small networks.
If they were working for networks, even if they're small, then they should probably be able to get actual press credentials.
And they were there the day before, and I don't know why the issue was brought up, but for some reason the chairman said they couldn't sit there. So they
probably because they didn't have press credentials, which are a thing.
Stood up and began to just, hey, we've got our credentials right here, and question. And it wasn't, not even a minute, just seconds. That all...
He probably got released in a day because he paid bail.
All those 20 to 25 ISP officers come file order down the middle of the...
Like, his family owns a ranch. They're certainly not impoverished.
Lincoln Auditorium, and go and arrest those independent media. And the people were like, what in the world's going on? Especially after what happened the day before, and now this. And I could see very clearly that...
Why did it cut off like that? That's pretty incompetent, even by his standards. Interesting. So yeah, that's a recent thing that happened to Ammon Bundy. Kind of wondering what it'll take to get him actually thrown in prison, because he's a piece of shit that breaks the law regularly. But whatever, I